Number two.
So for story number two, once again, this is another hospital and this is from Houston. So Houston represent. But over 6,000 Memorial Hermann patients information leaked.
Oh my God.
Data breach, vendor says. And, patients' data was leaked after contracted vendor said they had a security breach. They announced it on Tuesday and approximately 6,200 people are affected. What do you guys have to say about this?
Well, you're from Houston, so what do you have to say about this?
I have a lot of thoughts and concerns because like my parents have been to like Memorial Hermann, and it's very concerning that, their information might be out there, and that since like I've lived with my parents in Houston, I might be affected too in one way or the other. But that's what like people don't think about, like breaches in the sense of like a network of situations happening. But this is pretty tough, and with like we discussed in our previous story, it was related to like a medical field, and it was like related to how hackers were targeting like hospitals. Same things happening over here.
So I think the biggest problem here is even if your hospital doesn't get hit with ransomware, if your information gets leaked, your medical information, there's almost nothing you can do about it, right? There's no medical fraud detection system. The only way for you to detect medical fraud is for you to ask every hospital or clinic you've ever been to for your patient records, and then keep asking like every 6 months and look for differences, right? There's no good system in place for medical identity theft.
For medical what?
Medical identity theft.
What's important to know about hospitals working in one for a while is that they, at the end of the day, they are not technology companies, but they are handling a lot of data. And a lot of hospitals these days, they talk a lot about doing stuff with the data analytics, predictive care, things like that. That's data being passed around, but very few hospitals actually have the resources in-house to do this. So they do use a lot of contractors. And when you do that, it raises the risk.
Well,
Yeah,
it's the same case with
the leverage of third parties. They're totally exposed by 10 or 20 or 30 third parties. And then when they're asked, they say, yeah, but we don't think any personal customer patient information has been exposed. It's patently false, right?
I wouldn't trust that.
When did that come out? When did that come out in the news?
So this was written on February 8th, but updated on February 10th. And I'm pretty sure this happened like a while ago when they found out that they were breached.
So we potentially could have been identified that way before they were breached.
Way before.
2021 is when they were aware of suspicious activity. So
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah, I mean, that happens often. If this was a ransomware gang, we would know about it from the ransomware gang 6 months before anything hits an official source. And even if it's not posted by a ransomware gang, if September's when the data was accessed, we're in February.
Yeah.
So that's a good amount of time, almost 6 months of time where you can commit fraud. And you would have no idea that someone had your information to commit fraud, right?
Yeah.
So the whole system's broken, disclosures are broken, and then your ways of protecting yourself from medical fraud are broken.
And Steve, when would we know? I mean, so we have access to some of this. When would we know?
Yeah, we would know as soon as a ransomware gang disclosed it, right? So we often get information directly from Conti, Lockbit, 60 other ransomware gangs, and they'll disclose who they've broken into on a darknet site, and we'll have it right then. But it takes literally half a year for some companies to file with an official source before the consumer knows. And so that's a big part of the problem is consumers are always the last to know. but they're also the ones with the most to risk.
And the most to lose, right?
If they even live in a state that requires disclosure, there are some states that don't even require it, but that requires anything from like 30 to 45, 90, 6 months. It all varies, it all depends.
And the people that live in states that don't require disclosures, the only way they can really protect themselves is if they're monitoring states that do, right? So everyone monitors Montana, right, of all places. And the reason is Montana wrote their laws super strict, and they said, hey, if there may be like 10 Montanians that are impacted by a breach, then you have to let us know, right? And so Montana gets information that states like Texas and California don't. California has a disclosure law, Texas also does, but it's all about how the laws are written.